When making one of these videos, one of the first things I like to do is identify the most important scene. Focusing on the most pivotal scene can oftentimes reveal the message of the film and tell us what it's really about. In the case of 12 Angry Men, this was easier said than done. A big reason why is that it's tricky to even identify the different scenes. 94 minutes of the 97-minute runtime takes place in real time as we sit and watch the different men discuss the future of a young man's life. There aren't any natural scene dividers. Instead, the story unfolds in front of us. The film places us as the audience into the shoes of the different jurors, forcing us to make tough decisions of character and morality. We're told very quickly and very efficiently that we're dealing with a life and death situation. The jurors need to sentence a young man being accused of murder. All 12 jurors need to come to a unanimous decision. If they decide he's guilty, he'll be executed. If he's declared innocent, he'll walk free. The film essentially boils down into one question. What is the value of human life?
We're talking about somebody's life here. We can't decide it in 5 minutes.
The individual jurors each have their own biases, which are formed from their past experiences. I want to begin by looking at juror number 8, our protagonist, the juror who from the start votes that the defendant is not guilty.
Was Bonnie not guilty?
What's interesting is that he can never say that the man is truly innocent. He just thinks that the evidence isn't enough to end a man's life.
I don't know whether I believe it or not. Maybe I don't.
What's so great about juror number 8 is that he is an everyman. There's nothing that separates him from any of us. He's an architect by trade, by no means an extravagant career, but he has high morals and stands by what he believes in. What's so great about him is that any of us could be him. It goes to show that a little bit of good can go a very long way. However, just because he's good, it doesn't make those opposed him bad, at least not all of them. As we are told many times, the evidence in the courtroom all points to the defendant being guilty.
They proved it a dozen different ways in court. Would you like me to list them for you?
The mass majority of the jurors are just doing what they think is right. The exceptions to that are jurors 3, 7, and 10. Juror 7, for example, simply wants the court proceedings to be finished. He values his time and entertainment at a baseball game more than someone's life.
Yeah, we can all get out of here pretty quick, huh? I don't know about the rest of you, but I happen to have tickets to that ball game tonight.
Early on, when asked why he voted guilty, he responds by simply saying,
Couldn't change my mind if you talked for 100 years.
He does this because he thinks that it's the most efficient way to have the deliberation end. It's worth noting as soon as the jury swings to 6-6, he changes his vote.
But I'm getting a little tired of this yakety-yakking back and forth. It's getting us nowhere. So I guess I'll have to break it up. I changed my vote to not guilty,
thinking that it'll get him out of the room the fastest. Even though he changes his vote into what would be considered the right side, he does it for the wrong reason, something juror 11 takes umbrage with.
Who tells you that you have the right to play like this with a man's life?
This is someone who has a lot of pride in the American legal system. According to him, the actions of juror number 7 degrades the legal system as a whole. On the opposite end of the spectrum to juror number 7 are those who cannot make up their mind about the case. They want to do what is right, but don't know what right even is. Juror number 12, for example, flip-flops back and forth in between guilty and not guilty. I think it's worth noting that as we get to know the different jurors better and learn what their careers are, their actions in the courtroom are a reflection of their careers. Juror number 12, for example, works in advertising. His indecisiveness is a reflection of the advertising world. His vote is being manipulated by those with more power. People like juror number 8, but also people like juror number 3, 4, and 10, who firmly say that he is guilty. Juror number 10 is not able to look at the situation objectively. The film very slowly reveals to us that he is racist through a technique that I'm going to call slow escalation. Early on, he drops small and subtle remarks that indicates his bias.
You're not going to tell me that we're supposed to believe this kid, knowing what he is?
These alone don't amount to much, but as the film progresses and as he becomes more emotional, his remarks begin to escalate.
He's a common ignorant slob. He don't even speak good English.
Until the end of the film when he outs himself for what he truly is.
Look, you know how these people lie? It's born in them. I mean, what the heck? I don't have to tell you. They don't know what the truth is. And let me tell you, they don't need any real big reason to kill someone either.
This elicits disgust from the other jurors. most notably juror number 4, who also firmly votes guilty. Juror number 4 is the one who is able to remain the most level-headed and emotionless throughout the trial.
Don't you ever sweat?
No, I don't.
Everything he does is based on logic. He isn't biased in one way or another. He just wants to make sure the right outcome is reached. He is a stockbroker, somebody who studies and obsesses over the smallest details. He has a great memory and recalls the smallest details from court proceedings.
If he did hear it, he may not have connected it with his own act. Remember, he lived in a neighborhood where screams were fairly commonplace.
He acts as a perfect counterpart to juror number 8. Two people who are both trying to do good, they just come to different conclusions of what good is. Juror number 4 isn't biased against the young man. In fact, once the evidence points to inconclusive, he changes his vote. Going back to my opening remarks, if I had to identify the most important scene, it would be the moment that changes everything. I think it's the turning of juror number 4.
No. I'm convinced. Not guilty.
The last juror to vote guilty based solely on logic and evidence. Up to this point, the story focuses on the murder, going through the evidence and trying to evaluate it. After this moment, however, the jurors voting guilty do it based on emotion, revealing the film's main message that everything we do is shaped by our prejudices and prior experiences. This is exemplified by juror number 3, someone determined to vote guilty because of a strained relationship with his own son.
Rotten kids, you work your life out.
Because of this, he sees all the bad in the youngest generation, even though that bad can be found everywhere, even in himself. Early on in this scene, he lambasts the young man for not respecting his elders.
It's these kids the way they are nowadays. When I was a kid, I used to call my father Sir. That's right, Sir. You ever hear a kid call his father that anymore?
Then later on, he does the exact same to juror number 9.
You keep coming in with these bright sayings. Why don't you send them into a paper? They pay $3 a piece.
What are you talking to him like that for?
Over the 90-minute course of the film, he slowly starts to see the error in his ways. By all definitions, he is the antagonist of the film, one who most actively opposes our protagonist. But that doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. In fact, by the end, the film makes him sympathetic. By the end of the story, he reveals himself to be weak. He admits he was wrong and even redeems himself.
Not guilty.
By the end of the film, he realized what juror number 8 knew from the start, that every human life has value and deserves a fair shake.
Oh, what are we doing now?
I guess we talk.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed. 12 Angry Men is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I hope I was able to do it justice here. It's been a movie I've been meaning to talk about for a while, and I'm glad I could finally get around to it. If you want more, be sure to hit that subscribe button and check out my last video on Drive. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.